overview of the Spero Academy Math Inventory, the developmental level. So this is a new assessment for Spero Academy. We trialed it a couple years ago. Last year was our first year using it, and it worked really well for our PLS and ASR classrooms that had students that were operating below that pre-K level for mathematics. And this kind of allows us to scale their, to really assess their skills and place them on a scale that shows growth through from ages 0 all the way up to pre-K. So the two ways that you'll be able to find the digital materials for this assessment are going to be the academic department website. I'll go down to district assessments, and I'll scroll down to math assessments. And here is the developmental level slide folder. It's also available to you on the teacher and therapist folder. See if it decides to load. And predominantly, most people will probably use this assessment with the physical materials. The way that we kind of have it organized is that we made like a little ring with all of the different sections of the assessment, and it goes through skills and kind of what that skill would look like, or ways to kind of engage with the student that would help them to show that skill. What we're really looking for this assessment is going to be consistently showing us that skill. Some of these are going to be a little bit, harder for us to assess, and so it's really going to be your professional judgment. But I would say that if you need to provide a lot of physical prompting or verbal prompting in order to get the student to complete these skills, then that maybe is not them showing us that they are actually able to do that. And it's better for us to get an early, an early, really accurate representation of their skills, because otherwise when they get to, second, third grade, and all of a sudden they are showing that skill really consistently, then it's kind of frustrating for the teacher to have their kindergarten and first grade assessments showing that the student had already been doing that. But they needed quite a bit of prompting. So I'm hoping that this assessment kind of alleviates some of that by allowing us to really see how skills develop over time. We used the early childhood indicators of progress, which is a Minnesota kind of standards-based, skill progression, skill development. And so we took that and kind of broke down all of the skills in different mathematical concepts to show how they develop over time. So this is the developmental folder. It's in the Spero Academy Math Inventory folder. We have Google Slides. We've got the printing materials that are really only for the academic department. We do have student materials in here, but we actually don't have anything in that folder right now. We may develop some in the future as people kind of tell us what they need. And we have the teacher scoring sheets. So the teacher scoring sheets are really going to just be the list of the actual skill. I'll show you that really quickly so that you can see. We have this PDF version, so it's easy for printing. We're going to do numbers and operations, algebra, and geometry and measurement. And we're going to be giving students a few different scores. They'll have raw scores, percentages, and then also those percentages will translate into a developmental age range. So for the first section, numbers and operations, these are the skills that we're looking for: rote counting, And we'll do releasing one item to reach for another, or uses body language to indicate desire for more. If the student is able to do those two skills really consistently, then we'll check those off. Maybe a student is also responding to requests given a small quantity. We'll check that off as well. So really, we're looking at all of these skills across these age ranges. And then if the student has 0 to 3 checked, then they're in the 0 to 1 age range. If they have 4 to 9 checked, then they're in the 1 to 2 age range. And between 10 and 17, they're in the 2 to 3 age range. And so you can write down the total number that they have for that, and then the developmental range that they are in. Generally speaking, students are not going to check very many of the 2 to 3 if they don't have the 0 to 1 or the 1 to 2. Of course, there may be some skills that we see students developing in different ways, and that's absolutely fine. I'm still going to just ask that no how many they have checked, that's going to be their developmental range, okay? So we also have the algebra section, which is quite short, and then the geometry and measurement, which is actually quite long. That 2 to 3-year-old range is when we develop a lot of those skills. So those are going to be the teacher scoring sheets. The other thing I wanted to show you, so we have Google Slides that were started last year and are not quite finished, but I'm hoping to be able to finish those pretty quickly here. So these are going to have all of the skills that you will be assessing that you can just kind of maybe put up on the whiteboard. So my idea was that while you were doing your assessments, you would maybe be having some play group or some time where students are kind of spending time with paraprofessionals. So you could potentially put up this slide, and we could say, okay, paras, we're going to be looking for this skill, releasing one item to reach for a number. The way that we're going to be assessing whether the student can do that is during a play activity when a student is holding an object. Try to either observe them doing this independently or hand the student an object to prompt them to release that item and grab another. And so you can have your paras kind of assist you, and maybe all of your students, you're kind of doing this with them at the same time. And then whether you observe that or not, you can check that off and then move on to the next skill. So this was kind of my, idea for maybe trying to do some assessment along with your paras or in a group so that you could kind of knock a few of them out at the same time, because I realized that this assessment can get kind of long with all of those different skills that you're going to be checking for. So that is really just a brief overview of those developmental math skills. Again, we predominantly will be using the ringed laminated sheets in order to see those skills. They have directions listed out on them, but these other materials are available to you as well.